Hello there, you're watching All 24 News World News Program, and up next are tonight's top stories. Nearly 50 killed in Gaza as Zionist strikes continue. Resistance inflicts losses on occupation forces, and Hamas says it amended, not rejected, Witkoff's truce proposal. President Tebboune led Eid al-Adha prayers at Algiers' Great Mosque, exchanging holiday greetings with worshippers, while Algerians observed the occasion with somber solidarity for Palestinians. RSF attack kills civilians in Al Ubaid in Kordofan as Sudan's army chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan vows to retake every inch of territory that is captured by the RSF. And Russia pounds Kiev and 9 other regions in massive attack. Zelensky urges decisive response as Moscow claims military targets hit. Welcome back to the program. First up in our news, several Palestinians, including women and children, were killed and dozens injured in ongoing Zionist shelling on Jabalia al-Balad, north of Gaza Strip. Medical sources confirmed at least 10 martyrs and said the wounded, many in critical condition, were taken to Al-Ma'madani Hospital. In a related note, 9 Palestinians were killed and others wounded early Friday in a heavy Zionist shelling on Khan Younis in southern Gaza Strip. Local sources reported intense aerial and artillery strikes targeting civilians as helicopters hovered overhead. Meanwhile, the government media office in Gaza accused Zionist forces and an American security company of committing a new massacre on the first day of Eid al-Adha near an aid distribution center in Rafah. 8 Palestinians were killed and 61 others injured by live fire. Since March 27, these 8 sites have seen 110 deaths, 583 injuries, and 9 others missing. The office condemned the centers as deadly traps deliberately targeting starving civilians. Additionally, several Palestinians were killed and others wounded on Friday in a Zionist airstrike targeting civilians near a Sanafur intersection in Gaza City's Tufah neighborhood. Local sources reported the attack came amid ongoing bombardment of homes and residential areas across the Strip. A Palestinian journalist died from wounds sustained in an occupation drone strike on a press tent in Al-Ma'madani Hospital's courtyard, raising the death toll to 5 journalists. The attack marks another deadly blow to media workers covering occupying Israel's crimes on Gaza Strip. The Zionist military acknowledged Friday that Palestinian resistance fighters killed 5 of its soldiers and injured 7, 2 critically after detonating a booby-trapped building during an ambush in Khan Younis. The attack marks another blow to occupation forces in their ongoing Gaza aggression. Khalid al-Hayya, Hamas Gaza chief, said the occupation is plotting ethnic cleansing across Palestinian territories while affirming that the group remains engaged in truce talks. In a video statement Friday, al-Hayya said Hamas amended but did not reject a U.S. proposal, insisting any deal must include a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza.
فإننا نؤكد أن الحركة لم ترفض مقترح. We
confirm that the movement did not reject the last proposal of Witkoff, but we presented some comments on improvements to the proposal in order to ensure that this war ends and that the aggression does not return to treachery, killing, invasion, and imposing displacement, and to ensure the entry of aid and relief to our people in a dignified manner. We also confirm our readiness to engage in a new and real round of negotiations in order to reach a permanent ceasefire agreement, especially since contacts with mediators and others are still ongoing in order to reach that.
Shellfire eclipsed Eid al-Adha celebrations across Gaza on Sunday, with thousands forced to pray amid rubble and displacement camps. The besieged enclave saw none of the holiday's traditional festivities as relentless bombardment continued through what should have been a sacred morning of takbirs and communal worship. More details with تابعونا.
Eid chants under shelling. Eid al-Adha in Gaza, where sacred prayers clash with the brutality of war. The chants of Eid rise from the rubble, from hearts clinging to hope and faced by the sound of airstrikes.
We will pray in our mosques and bless our mosques with prayers and worshippers. We will not pay attention to the occupation, not to their bombings or their planes. We will pray and we will hold the rituals of God, and we will not pay attention to anyone.
Another Eid passes in Gaza without joy or celebration. No smiles, only grief, tears and loss. Replacing joy and laughter of children, the sound of bombs and grieving mothers' cries echo.
We are marking Eid with the remains of our children, with the remains of our fathers and mothers. Every Palestinian house is wounded. Every Palestinian house has a martyr. All of the Gaza Strip is bleeding. The world is watching. The world is happy. They are sacrificing for Eid al-Adha, and we are sacrificing with ourselves.
This Eid, Gaza's displaced families know no festivity, only airstrikes, hunger and loss. In place of ritual sacrifice, blood is spilled daily. No gatherings, no festive meals, only cemeteries and tents. Gaza marks Eid through a window of extermination. Families too exhausted by war to celebrate. This is not Eid, it's just another day of survivals for Palestinians. In Gaza, Eid is not about clothes or joy, but in shaken resilience, a people standing tall in the face of an occupation that knows no limits to its cruelty.
Despite heavy occupation security measures, tens of thousands of Palestinian worshippers filled Al-Aqsa Mosque in Al-Quds for Eid al-Adha prayers on Sunday. The Islamic Waqf reported 80,000 worshippers as occupation forces were deployed across the old city, erecting checkpoints and metal barriers as an attempt to limit access to the holy site.
Today's Eid al-Adha. Al-Aqsa Mosque is sad in light of the current situation because they did not allow our people in the West Bank and Gaza to enter and come to perform the religious rituals that are favored to God, as this place is dedicated to worship God. Glory be to God Almighty. So we ask God for imminent and urgent relief for this nation, and that our God changes the situation to better situation.
All the way to Algeria now, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune performed Eid al-Adha prayers on Friday morning at the Great Mosque of Algiers in an atmosphere of reverence and serenity. He was joined by senior state officials, government members, Arab and Islamic diplomats accredited to Algeria, and a large crowd of worshippers. After Eid al-Adha prayers, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune exchanged greetings with senior officials and government members and received congratulations from Arab and Islamic diplomats accredited to Algeria. During Eid al-Adha prayers, Sheikh Mohammed al-Mamoun al-Qasim al-Hassani, Dean of Algiers Great Mosque, called for national solidarity to protect Algiers' stability and resources. The prominent Imam warned against external threats and internal divisions, emphasizing the need for unity amid regional tensions.
فاتقوا الله وأصلحوا ذات بينكم واصفحوا يصفح الله عنكم.
Fear Allah and fix your relations with one another. Pardon others and Allah will pardon you. Forgive each other and Allah will forgive you. Safeguard your homeland and its resources. Protect its legacy and preserve its unity. Stand together, unite and close your ranks against the dangers that threaten it, and deter the evils of discord and unrest surrounding its borders. Do not envy one another, harbor hatred, or cut kinship ties. O servants of Allah, be brothers. Let this Eid be an occasion to visit relatives and uphold kinship ties.
Sheikh Mohammed al-Mamoun al-Qasim al-Hassani honored Palestinian sacrifices during Eid prayers, endorsing their legitimate resistance for liberation. The Algerian Imam urged worshippers to transform the holiday into renewed support for Palestinian struggles and Islamic solidarity.
وتذكروا رحمكم الله تذكروا معاني التضحية والفداء في حياتنا المعاصرة.
And remember, may Allah have mercy on you, the meanings of sacrifice and devotion in our contemporary era, so that we may turn them into a drive and a hopeful sign by having a sincere intention for Allah alone. Let our sacrifice be loyalty to the message of His Prophet and a renewed opportunity to uphold His religion and the dignity of His nation. Let us remember that Eid is a moment, but sacrifice is a lifetime for dignity and honor on earth, and the victory in the hereafter with everlasting bliss. This is exactly what the free people in the land of Palestine are achieving through their legitimate resistance, following in the footsteps of their Algerian brothers and their bitter struggle.
في مقاومتهم المشروعة تأسيا بجهاد إخوانهم الجزائريين وكفاحهم المرير.
Faith and unity defined Algiers' Eid al-Adha celebrations with prayers across the nation, including heartfelt supplications for Palestinians enduring Zionist attacks in Gaza Strip, as well as occupied territories. Imams dedicated portions of their sermons to the cause, reflecting widespread public solidarity. Mohammed Khatir reports now.
On this blessed day, Algerians celebrate Eid al-Adha, or the Sacrifice Festival, one of the two most important holidays in Islam, in an atmosphere of piety, devotion, and solidarity. Early on Friday, Jama' al-Jazair, or the Great Mosque of Algiers, like all mosques across the country, welcomed thousands of worshippers and faithful who came to perform the Eid prayer, which was punctuated by sermons emphasizing values such as faith, unity, and mercy.
اللهم اجبر كسر قلوبهم واجعلهم بقضائك مؤمنين وعلى قدرك صابرين.
However, for Algerians, the joy of Eid remains incomplete for the second consecutive year due to the ongoing genocidal aggression against Palestinian brothers, especially in the Gaza Strip.
Happy holiday to all the Algerian people and the entire Muslim community, without forgetting our brothers in Gaza, knowing that our joy remains incomplete.
I wish the Palestinian people a happy holiday, and I hope that Allah will help them. Sorry, I'm short of words, especially for Gaza. It truly is a catastrophe.
Although the thoughts and hearts of Algerians are with the Gaza Strip, the tradition of sacrifice remains alive throughout the country, perpetuating the tradition of Prophet Ibrahim, who was willing to sacrifice his only son, Ismail, in an act of obedience to Allah.
Thank God we're celebrating Eid in our country, but sadly our Palestinian brothers are suffering right now. They're being bombed, and the Zionists know it's a holiday, so they try to make us sad.
Eid al-Adha in Algeria remains a celebration marked by spirituality, fraternal unity and solidarity. It strengthens social ties and reaffirms the Algerian people's pride in their Islamic identity, as well as their sensitivity to the tragedies affecting their brothers and sisters around the world.
Moving on to the war in Sudan, 5 people, including children, were killed and 9 others injured in a heavy artillery bombardment by the Rapid Support Forces on the city of Al Ubaid in North Kordofan state. The Sudanese army confirmed that more than 75 shells from howitzers and mortars were fired at residential neighborhoods, causing significant casualties and damage. In an Eid al-Adha message, Sovereignty Council Chairman Abdel Fattah al-Burhan vowed to continue cleansing Sudan of all aggressors, framing the war as a national struggle, uniting the army and people against the Rapid Support Forces. He denounced the paramilitary group as a destabilizing militia, reinforcing his commitment to military action despite ongoing regional mediation efforts. In South Sudan, President Salva Kiir declared a 6-month state of emergency on Thursday across multiple regions following deadly tribal clashes, with the decree broadcast on state television. The move comes as the UN reports hundreds killed since December in Warab State's Tanj East area, where security forces have reportedly conducted airstrikes to quell the violence. Looking Eastern Europe, the war in Ukraine has escalated dramatically overnight, with Russia launching a massive wave of attacks targeting Kiev and at least 9 other Ukrainian provinces. Ukrainian officials report civilian casualties, while Moscow claims it struck military infrastructure. Meanwhile, Ukraine retaliated with strikes on Russian air bases. Here's the latest with Usama Ayadi.
Russian forces unleashed a large-scale aerial attack on Ukraine, hitting the capital Kyiv and several key regions. Ukrainian authorities confirm at least 4 people were killed and dozens wounded in the attacks, which damaged residential buildings and critical infrastructure. Air raid sirens blared across the country as Ukrainian air defenses intercepted several missiles and drones. However, some strikes got through, causing fires and power outages in multiple areas.
Around 1:30 at night, we woke up from the explosions. The doors went open. We went to check on our neighbors. They also went out. All were relatively fine under circumstances. Then we went down to the parking to wait till the air raid alarm was over.
The Russian Defense Ministry confirmed what it called a massive strike on Ukrainian Mediterranean energy facilities, claiming the operation was in response to recent Ukrainian attack on Russian territory. Additionally, Russia announced a deliberate bombing of a railway line in the Belgorod region, accusing Ukraine of attempting to disrupt military logistics.
Speaking specifically about the last night's strikes, if you have carefully read the statement by the Defense Ministry, it said that the strikes were in response for the terrorist attacks of Kiev regime.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the attacks and called on Western allies to respond decisively with more air defense systems and long-range weapons.
Please, I ask you to support all the efforts to put just pressure on Russia, to support diplomacy, political and economic pressure. Please urge for new effective sanctions against Russia and their regime for the sake of putting an end to murders and strikes, for the sake of reaching real peace, for the sake of real responsibility of Russians for the war.
In a swift retaliation, Ukraine launched overnight drone attacks on 2 Russian military airfields, according to Kyiv's security sources, while Russia has not officially commented, and reports suggest explosions at the facilities. This marks a continued escalation in cross-border strikes as Ukraine increasingly targets Russian military infrastructure, and with no signs of diplomacy, the conflict appears to be entering a new phase of intensified strikes. Analysts warn that without stronger air defenses, Ukraine's cities remain vulnerable.
Shifting focus to Lebanon, occupation drones carried out a series of intense raids overnight Thursday into Friday on southern Beirut suburbs. The Lebanese National News Agency reported the attacks targeted in Qanah in the Iqlim al-Tufah region, Nabatia district. The raids, described as the most violent since the ceasefire 7 months ago, hit several buildings with more than 20 airstrikes. Moving on to a different matter now, Algeria has welcomed Syria's engagement with the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, calling it a positive step toward resolving long-standing issues. Speaking at a UN Security Council meeting, Algerian Ambassador Ammar bin Jama commended Syrian authorities for ensuring organizations secure access in Damascus and participating constructively in technical discussions.
And Turkey.
To other global news story, the International Criminal Court condemned U.S. sanctions on 4 of its judges as an attempt to undermine its independence. In a statement Thursday, the Hague-based court called the U.S. decision regrettable and affirmed full support for its staff. The ICC vowed to continue its work under the Rome Statute, upholding fairness and due process to ensure justice for victims of war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and aggression.
These measures taken by the U.S. administration are a clear attempt to undermine the independence of the International Judicial Institution, which operates under a mandate from 125 member states around the world. The court believes that such actions do not help civilians who find themselves held hostage in conflict situations, but rather encourage those who think they can act with impunity and without fear of accountability.
Across the world, Muslims marked Eid al-Adha with prayers, sacrifice, and community gatherings. In Moscow, thousands flocked to the city's largest mosque, underscoring the growing presence of Islam in Russia's diverse society. Our special envoy, Maryam Ziyan, has more in this report.
Thousands of worshippers gathered at Moscow's Cathedral Mosque to mark Eid al-Adha, one of the most important holidays in the Islamic calendar. This mosque, the largest in the Russian capital, holds up to 10,000 people. And on this special day, coinciding Friday, it was at full capacity.
And so right now we have completed our Eid al-Adha prayer, and after maybe 3 hours later, we have another special prayer, Jummah. So after completing Jummah, definitely we have some friends, and we'll go somewhere to celebrate, and we'll gossip together, and we will eat some delicious food also.
In Russia, Islam is the second most practiced religion, with over 20 million followers. That's about 14% of the country's population.
Islam is a very beautiful, peaceful, and tolerant religion. It is social cohesion in one word. I like that.
I came here for tourism and arrived today to celebrate Eid with the Muslims Brotherhood. We all share the same happiness, coming from different countries like Russia and beyond. Regardless of our backgrounds, we are all Muslims. I wanted to spread this joy anywhere, be it in Russia, Turkey, Qatar, or Saudi Arabia. The Eid prayer was beautiful, and we created a brotherly atmosphere. God bless you all.
Here in Moscow, the celebrations reflect the city's rich diversity, bringing together Muslim communities from across the country and beyond. This time, the Imam took a moment to pray for peace in occupied Palestine, a message that resonates with Muslims around the globe. Here, authorities made sure everything ran smoothly, but the crowds highlighted a growing need for more mosques to serve the city's expanding Muslim population.
As you can see behind me, the atmosphere is filled with faith and joy. Many Muslims have just performed the Eid al-Adha or Greater Eid prayers here in the Cathedral Mosque of Moscow. And you can tell that this is the most sacred day for Muslims, and this is one of the most sacred days in Islam. You can also tell from the picture right behind me that Islam is a growing religion here in Russia, and there is a strong presence of Muslims. Whether they are Chechens or Tatars or Muslims from around the world, migrants or else, they have celebrated Eid al-Adha and their culture, their identity and their faith here in Moscow and in Russia, while being part of the social fabric of the Russian society here in Russia. Miriam Zian for Al24 News, Moscow, Russia.
That's the end of our news program for tonight. For more updates, you can always check our social media platforms. Thank you for tuning in and good night.